I stood at the edge of the room watching them. She was close to him, and the energy between them was clear. He glanced at me, uncertainty in his eyes, but she kept him steady. Her gaze never wavered, guiding him with a quiet assurance. I could feel a pull to step forward, to be part of what was unfolding, to no longer remain just an observer. This was his gift, but now I realized I was ready to be more than an observer. Before we dive in, please take a quick second to hit like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow tremendously. Thanks for being here. Let's get started. How long have you been doing this? She didn't flinch. 6 years, maybe 7. I watched her closely, trying to read something beneath the calm surface. She sat with her legs crossed, hands resting easily in her lap, confident, comfortable. No nerves, no performance, just quiet control. And you don't mind being watched? Her gaze held steady. Not at all. I like when someone's paying attention. I let the answer sit between us, just long enough to feel the heat behind it. You ever work with couples? Plenty, but it always depends on who's really in charge. I raised an eyebrow. And who do you think that is? You. She didn't hesitate. Definitely you. That made me smile. Not big, just enough. I shifted in my seat slightly, legs uncrossing. The hem of my dress slid higher. Intentional or not, I wasn't sure anymore. She noticed. Didn't comment, just waited. And if I only want to watch, I asked, then I'll make sure you don't miss anything. That one hit lower than I expected. I took a breath and stood up, smooth and deliberate. My heels met the hardwood softly as I walked to my bag. I pulled out the envelope, what we'd discussed, and turned to face her. I held it out. She took it with one hand, meeting my eyes without a word. "I'll text you when to arrive," I said. She nodded. "Looking forward to it." She left a moment later. No rush, no goodbye, just a glance over her shoulder that lingered longer than it needed to. That night, I was in bed with my husband. His body moved against mine, steady, familiar, locked in rhythm. His hands found my hips, grounding me, while my legs wrapped tighter around him, holding him close. I guided him with every breath, every slow grind of my body beneath his. My back lifted instinctively, chasing the build he worked so hard to give. His lips brushed my throat. I moaned softly, one hand buried in his hair, the other flat against his chest, feeling the strength behind each motion. He was trying, giving everything, and I gave just as much. I gasped when the tension broke, tight, overwhelming, sudden. He followed with a soft groan, sinking into the sheets beside me, heat still radiating between us. We lay still, lungs catching up, the air thick and quiet. "That was wow," he said finally. "Yeah," I murmured. "It was amazing." He turned his head, still breathless. "Was that my early birthday gift?" I kissed his shoulder. "Number, I've arranged something even more special for tomorrow." The next evening arrived in a blink. Golden light stretched across the hardwood floors, warm and low. She was already there, seated on the edge of the couch, ankles crossed, calm as ever. Her presence filled the room without trying. She glanced toward the front door. "Where is he?" "Still at work," I said. "Should be home any minute." She tilted her head slightly. "Did you tell him?" I shook mine. "Not yet. He's been guessing all day." That drew a quiet smile from her, measured, knowing. She leaned back, arms resting loosely across the cushions like she'd done this 100 times. "You really think he'll go for it?" "I don't think," I said. "I know." The space between us settled into a low hum. Not nervous, just waiting. She didn't ask more. Just watched the light crawl slowly across the floor, then the sound of keys. The door swung open. He stepped inside, bag slung over his shoulder, tie loosened, jacket gone. His eyes found her instantly. He stopped. Silence. His gaze flicked to me, then back to her. "Is this—" I nodded. "She's your surprise." He blinked. "You're serious?" "Completely." The woman stood, smooth, confident. She crossed the room and stopped in front of him, her movements calm but focused. He looked at me again. I nodded once more. "It's okay," I said. "She's here for you." Her hand rose, brushing his cheek with quiet confidence. Then, without a word, she leaned in and kissed him. It was slow, simple, intentional. When they parted, he stood frozen, still processing, still breathing her in. I stepped forward and gently took his hand. As I led them both toward the bedroom, I leaned in and whispered, "This is your gift." A pause. "Enjoy." The bedroom felt warmer than usual. I settled onto the couch across from the bed, my posture composed, legs folded neatly, every sense tuned to what was about to unfold. I hadn't said much since we stepped in, just enough to guide them inside, to remind him this was still his moment, and mine, too, in a different way. She stood close to him now, barely an inch of space remaining. Her hands moved to the front of his pants, calm and confident, every movement sure. There was no fumbling, no hesitation, just steady control. Her eyes lifted briefly to his, not asking, just anchoring him. He looked at me. A pause lingered. No words, but I saw the silent question in his expression, his last check for reassurance. I nodded once, measured, certain. That was all he needed. She guided him to sit at the edge of the bed, then lowered herself with practiced ease. Her palm slid along his thighs as she leaned in. He let out a shaky breath, gripping the blanket as his head tilted back and his eyes drifted closed. Whatever doubt he'd held dissolved. Her movements were intentional, unfaltering. She adjusted with him, responding to every shift in his breath, every subtle cue. A rhythm began to take shape, grounded and focused, holding him in place. I watched, my own breath catching. I shifted, adjusting my position. A soft pressure began building inside me, gradual, insistent. My hand rested on my thigh beneath the fabric of my dress. I didn't move it. I simply let it settle there, steadying myself against the rising tension. After a moment, she rose. Her hand slid upward along his torso as she stood, then moved to the buttons of his shirt. She opened each one slowly, with the ease of someone familiar with every step. Piece by piece, his clothing fell away until his chest rose and fell freely under the room's warm light. Then it was her turn. She undressed with graceful efficiency. Nothing flashy, just quiet command in every movement. Each layer came away smoothly until nothing remained between them. She gently pressed him back onto the bed and climbed over him with certainty. He didn't resist. She adjusted her stance, settling into a pace that matched the rise and fall of his breath. Every shift was deliberate, designed to connect, not dominate. She stayed focused, her attention fully on him. His hands rested at her waist, his head leaned back. His breathing grew deeper, his body sinking with hers, moment by moment. A sound left me, soft, involuntary. My hand now rested just beneath my dress, unmoving but present. I wasn't detached. I felt everything. The build inside me, the heat under my skin, the need that stirred with every glance and reaction. Watching wasn't enough anymore. The pull was growing. I pressed my knees closer together. My breathing shortened. She leaned forward, bracing herself against his chest. A deep sound came from him, low and full. That was it. I rose from the couch, slow and purposeful. My legs were a little unsteady, not from nerves, but from how long I'd held myself in place. I took a step, then another. My eyes stayed on them as I crossed the space between us. I wasn't just watching anymore. I stopped at the edge of the bed, pulse steadying, eyes locked on the two of them. She looked up from where she straddled him, composed, poised, but something in her softened the moment our eyes met. Without a word, she eased off him and rose to her feet, giving me the space she knew I needed. I stepped forward. She met me halfway, her hands brushing my arms, then gliding gently down my sides. I leaned in and kissed her, not hesitant, not cautious. It was warm and certain, a connection already understood. She returned it fully, her body pressing softly into mine. Then together, we turned to face him. He was still seated at the edge of the bed, chest rising visibly, eyes wide, following every motion, barely breathing. We lowered ourselves in front of him. I took one side, she took the other. Our fingers grazed once before we fell into rhythm, alternating, syncing naturally, moving together without words. My lips traced along his skin with calm intention, while hers moved in a measured pattern. When I paused, she leaned in, and when she shifted back, I took her place again. His muscles tensed, his legs braced. One hand gripped the blanket, the other clenched by his side. His whole body was alive under our attention, and still we moved as one, fluid, practiced, instinctive. Eventually, she rose and extended her hand. I took it, and she helped me upright. She began to undress me, one strap at a time, each piece falling with careful ease. There was no rush in her movements, only quiet focus. When I stood fully revealed, she leaned in and kissed me again, slower this time, deeper, like she was saying something that didn't need to be spoken. I stepped back toward the bed, her gaze following mine. When I reached it, I lay down, heartbeat steady but full. She lingered above, her eyes on mine. Couldn't keep just watching, huh? I smiled, my voice barely above a whisper. I just wanted a better view. She moved between my legs and lowered herself with deliberate grace. Her mouth found me gently, each movement anchored and sure. My head fell back as her rhythm deepened, not rushed, not shy, just intentional. I reached for the edge of the sheets, grounding myself in the sensation building steadily beneath my skin. Then I saw him. He climbed onto the bed behind her, his movements measured. He placed his hands at her waist, and slowly they began to move together. Their rhythm took shape, and I could feel it. Subtle at first, then more defined. Each motion she absorbed from him reflected in how she moved against me, her pace adjusting, her focus sharpened. The connection passed through her. Her breath landed warm on my skin. Her body aligned perfectly with his, and the result was a wave flowing directly into me, steady, continuous, growing. The pressure inside me rose. No buildup, just momentum. My legs pulled closer, my grip on the sheets tightened, and when it overtook me, it came fast, sharp and complete, a release I couldn't resist. My breath escaped in a rush, my body trembling beneath her. She stayed with me through every second of it. Only once I settled did she lift her head. Behind her, his breathing had grown ragged. His movements had lost their precision, now driven by urgency. He leaned forward at last, his forehead resting near her shoulder, his entire frame coming to stillness. She eased aside, slow and calm. He shifted beside me, breath catching in his throat, and let himself fall to the pillow at my side. His fingers found mine. I gave them a gentle squeeze. He kissed me, soft and lingering. I smiled and whispered through a breath still catching up. Happy birthday. If this was your gift, how would you react? Embrace it or turn it down? Let me know in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts. Before you leave, please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching. See you soon.